All right, guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about railings. Specifically within railings, we're going to talk about adjusting the path of the railing, editing the rail structure. So this would be like horizontal elements within a railing, editing the baluster placement, which are vertical elements within a railing. Think like rail structure might be like horizontal cables, balusters might be like steel posts or something like that. And then we're also going to talk about extending the top rail of a guardrail or the handrail and making everything kind of work and look good. So these are the four areas I'd like to hit. So I'm going to go to the sort of demo file here, and what I have is a level 1 and a level 2. You can see the level 2 is kind of carved in a certain way to sort of like meet the stair. And then I have a very simple stair that is a assembled stair, 7-inch max, 11-inch tread, and um, and then very simple railings that just come with it. So the first thing I want to do is switch these to the guardrail rectangular railing that I want to use. And I should say that I am going to be going off the book here. So I'm starting on page 7-77. So this is basically the railing section of the grand staircase that you're putting in your law office. So this is the beginning of the discussion about the railing and what edits we can make. So I'm going to go right by the book here. If you can do this, the homework will be no problem. If you follow along here, you're basically doing the homework. So I need to get my setup here to be somewhat like the law office lobby. So what that means is I need to extend these rails along this edge and say along that edge. Before I do that, I just want to switch to the rail that we're going to use in the law office project, which is guardrail rectangular. So I'm going to select this railing and switch it over here to guardrail rectangular. Switch my other one, guardrail rectangular. Did I do that? Yep, I did that because this jumped up 6 inches and we get a handrail, and the same is happening on that side. Okay, so let's look at this railing first. What I want to do is have it kind of loop around the corner here and come down this second level, and I want this railing to go over here and down here. So I'm going to select this railing first. I'm going to go up and click Edit Path. Right up in, after I've selected it, Edit Path will come up in the ribbon. Okay, so I can see my path there. Now for this view, this isn't a really good view to draw that what I want in. I'm going to go to level 2. So there, that pink line there, I can see the path of the current railing. So what I'm going to do is go to my line tool, which should be up in your ribbon already. And I'm just going to start right from the end of that pink line and sort of follow the floor plate here. Now I see that there's a sort of gap right here, and I want to mimic that gap all along these two edges as well. So I'm going to figure out how big that is. I'm just going to take my line tool and see. That's a 2-inch. So I didn't draw a line there. I just used the line to see how big that was. Now I'm going to select this line here. I'm going to just move it 2 inches this way. I'm going to select this line and move it 2 inches that way. I'm going to hit the green check, so I'm done. That's my whole new path I want. All right, let's look in 3D. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'll do the same with this side. Select the railing, edit path, level 2. And now I'm just going to follow this. I'm going to move this line to the right 2 inches, and I'm going to move the bottom one up 2 inches. Hit the green check. And there we are. So now I got the railing exactly where I want it, in the position I want, but now I want to get this railing to look how I want it to look, which is basically like what the book has you do. So I'm going to switch over to page 7.78. You can kind of see where we're headed there. The first step it has you do is offset the railing from the path that we just defined. So if I click one of these railings, there's this setting here, offset from path. Now in the book they call it tread stringer offset. It's the same thing. I could put 1 foot in here, for example. Do that and hit apply. You can see how my railing comes way in. Okay, it goes way in all the way around wherever I drew that pink line. I'm going to put it at -1 inch. Oops, minus 0 foot 1 inch. Now if I hit apply, I can see now that all those rectangular elements come down and they land right on the stringer. So I already did that to this side, so that's why that one's landing correctly already. So that setting isn't something that's part of the type, it's outside the type. So you have to select, like I could offset this railing a foot and this one 2 inches. So they can be separate from each other. So the first thing that we're going to edit here on our railing to get the correct look that the book wants you to is the rail structure. So we've already adjusted path. Now we're going to do the rail structure. All right, so I'm going to click on a railing and I'm going to click edit type. Now we're starting to change the type settings and the type properties for that particular railing. So now would be a good time to do what? That's correct. We need to duplicate. So I'm going to go ahead and hit duplicate. And I'm going to say VO2. So I'm going to call it Guardrail Rectangular version 2. Okay, now we're in our version 2 settings. And the area I'm interested in is right here, rail structure. I'm going to close these guys so we just don't get confused. But rail structure non-continuous, it says right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit. Right now, as you see our rail here, there are no horizontal members within the railing guardrail itself. There is a top rail, but that's a separate element. Within here, there's nothing horizontal. So we want to add one. Okay, so let's click insert. So we get a line item here. Here's our new horizontal member. So let's call this one, the book has you call it bottom rail. Let's do a height of 7 inches. And let's do a profile of rectangular handrail 2x2. I'm not going to mess with offset or material right now. I'm just going to hit OK. And then I'll hit OK again to see what we get. Spacing for axis length fill is too small. I don't know what that means, but let's just see. Looks fine to me. Okay, what you're seeing here is this is the horizontal element near the bottom there that we added. 7 inches up from the bottom. And it's a 2x2 profile. Now if I want, I could go in and add as many horizontal members as I want at different heights within this railing. That's the place to do it. You could also do different profiles. You might be hearing Wendell bark outside. There's nothing I can do about that right now, sorry. The dog has a mind of its own. Okay, now this railing over here is not the same type as this one because we duplicated this one but not this one. So I'm going to change this railing type to the new one I just created. So I'm going to click on it, go over to my type selector, and do guardrail rectangular version 2. Spacing for axis length fill is too small. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm not quite sure what that is because everything is looking the way I want it to look right now. So that looks good so far. Got a nice bottom rail on both railings, but my verticals are piercing through it and going right down to the floor level. So that's the area that we're going to sort of mess with now. Okay, so now I'm kind of moving on to page 780, and we're going to make some changes to the balusters now. So I'm going to click on one of the rails. So now any changes I make in edit type is going to affect the other rail too. So we were in rail structure, and now we're going to go to baluster placement right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit. And right now, on our railing, okay, so we can see it here, the main pattern. Okay, so let's look at this whole screen here and just break it down. This top area is the main pattern. So this is what is going to be happening on your rail between start points and corner points, between corner points themselves, between a corner point and an end point. Okay? This is what's going to be happening, these posts. So you see this main pattern, and then we have posts. So this is what's going to be happening at start post, corner posts, and end posts. Okay? Now, for the main pattern, we have a regular baluster happening at, so this is just a name given to it, that's fine. A square 3/4 inch baluster happening every 4 inches. That's what's happening. This is happening every 4 inches, and that's just being repeated, 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 repeated. So right now, this baluster is going from the host, which is the stair stringer, up to the top rail. So you can see that right, say for example here, it's going from right here up to the top rail. Now instead of going from the host to the top rail, how about we say, let's go from this bottom thing up to the top rail. So let's go in our base options here and click bottom rail. That's what we just created. We called that bottom rail. Now if you called it something else, you'll see that in here. All right, so let's just hit OK. Hit OK again. All right, it's already a little cleaner. Okay, so we're getting the gap. We're getting a post on, say, corner points and end points and beginning points here. So that's looking good. So let's edit this further. So what the book has you do, I'm going to go back into there. I'm going to click a rail, go back into edit type, and I'm going to go into baluster offset. Okay, it has you start down here on these posts. So first thing it wants you to do is change all these square posts to a square 2 inch. All these square 3/4 to a square 2 inch. I'm going to do that. Okay, and let's just see what this does. Let's see, make the following. Yeah. The only other change they wanted you to do is at the start post, change this spacing right here to 1 inch. And we'll see what that does at the bottom. I'm not totally certain. I'm just going to hit OK and OK. All right. I think I know. Oop, looks like I did a circle one there on my. I'm going to check those again. Go edit type, baluster placement. Looks like I did a round for these two. I picked the wrong one. Square. Where are you? Square. Let's put this at 0 once and see what happens. And okay. Okay, so that's what happens. See that? That little overhang? Kind of see it up here too. So if I click on that, I'm going to change that back to 1 inch, which looks like it's probably half of one of these balusters that's calculating that. I'll hit OK and it'll move back. Okay, so that's already looking better. We've sort of we sort of like made these corner posts, start posts up more structural. We made this not go all the way down to the bottom, and we added this kind of horizontal rail in here. Now there's something I'm going to try to fix right now, and I don't know if I'll be successful, but I don't really like how this looks, so everything's just crashing into each other. Let me see. I'm going to go to edit type. Let me see if I can mess with that at rail connections here. I'm going to go to weld, and let's see what happens. Nothing. Yeah. Let me look in there again. We change that to weld, tangent joins, angle joins, add horizontal segments. I'll leave all that for now. Yeah, that's not as pretty as I would hope it could be, but we'll just leave it here. So we've messed with the balusters at the corners and the ends and the starts, but now let's mess with the main pattern. So I'm going to go in there and click edit again. So right now this is our only pattern happening in there, and what we want to do is basically create a pattern that repeats every 4 feet. Right now, since this is only 4 inches and this is the only one in here, this pattern repeats every 4 inches. It just does the same thing again for all the lengths, but let's make it a little more complex. So if you look on page 781, it has you add basically a support rail, and then it has you add a bunch of 3/4 kind of baluster rails, all 4 inches. Everything's 4 inches apart. So turn your attention, page 781, to that chart right on the bottom. That is what we want to try to make. Okay, so we want this rail. Now, if you look at rows 2 through 12, that's exactly the same thing. Baluster square 3/4, which we have. Name it right now as regular baluster. It's going from the bottom rail to the top rail, and it's 4 inches apart. So let's copy that. Looks like, so we have 2 through 12. So I'm going to go to 2 here, and I'm just going to hit duplicate until one more. I have that happen on the 12th row there. Now I'm going to duplicate one more, and I'm going to call this one support, and I'm going to change it to a square 2-inch. And this one's going to go from not the bottom rail, but the actual host, the actual stair, up to the top rail element. Now that one's the only difference. So let me just see if I can make this even bigger. I can really explain this. So in your main pattern then, what's happening here is all this is being repeated over and over and over again. Now this pattern is 4 inches times how many things there are here long. So in this case, it's 4 feet long because there's 12 of these here. So 12 times 4 inches is 48, which is 4 feet. So this is going to happen every 4 feet. So that's the pattern that the book has you create. Of course, you can make your own pattern. Maybe you make a pattern that happens every 1 foot, every 2 foot, or whatever the case may be. Now, in addition here, it has you change the justification, which is right here, to center. And then your excess fill length, right now it says to none, but we want to put truncate pattern. So this means if you have a length that's less than 4 feet, what do you do? If that was set to none, nothing would happen. Okay, but we want to truncate the pattern, meaning we want it to populate those areas too. Let's see what the heck we get here. I'm going to hit OK, and I'll hit OK. OK. So here's a good spot to kind of see what we got. here's our vertical piece that's happening every 4 feet. So this is happening, happens again, happens again, happens again, happens again, and all of our little guys are happening as well. So just to review, you go in there again, edit type, and go into baluster placement. Line 13 here is that big element, 2-inch, going from the bottom all the way to the top. And then the next one, 4 inches down. So distance from previous is 4 inches. So the next piece element down is a baluster that's 3/4 inch going from the bottom rail up to the top rail. And so I could put as many of these or as little of these as I want and then see the pattern kind of lay out. Now we said center, meaning start with a 4-foot pattern in the center or a line in the center and go 4 foot, 4 foot, 4 foot, 4 foot till, for example, right here, this is probably just about 4 feet. So that's why you can kind of see one whole pattern in there. Let's just change this to beginning and hit apply. I probably have to hit OK here and OK. Everything's sort of shifted. You're going to get one-offs like this. So center is always your best bet because then it'll center a pattern on this run. It'll center a pattern on this flat part, center a pattern on this run, and so on as it goes around. I know this might be a lot here, but that's just how a good introduction to how the patterning works and how you can set that up. Do these all have to be that? No, they can be whatever they want. Let's change just this one to, well, let's do around 1 inch for there, and I'll do around 1 inch for here. Hit OK, hit OK. So now you can see my pattern from here to here is 4 feet, and I got around 1 inch on the start of it and around 1 inch on the end of it before the pattern starts again. So you can really customize your pattern. I could add another rail in here, and I could say, ooh, I only want, I want these guys to go to that rail, not all the way to the top. So that would be another thing you can add. So that's kind of how the rail structure, the horizontals, and the rail baluster are broken up. I know that was kind of a lot. Are there any questions? Okay, please post them on Teams, but otherwise we're just going to move on. Something that's not nearly as hard, which is these rail and handrail extensions. So now we're basically on page 784. I'm going to go to my Revit here, and I'm going to select one of these railings. Now, what I basically want to do is edit the top rail, how that sort of comes down and starts and terminates, and edit the handrail here. So I'm going to just hover over, and I'm just going to hit Tab until I select the top rail. I'm going to click to select it and click Edit Type. Okay. So once we're in there, if I look on page 784, it'll tell you what settings that the book wants you to do. So for extension at the beginning of the rail, I want that top rail to kind of return to the post. I want it to extend a length of 1 foot plus the tread depth, and I'll explain that when we look at it. So I added those. At the top, I'm going to do nothing at the moment. Yeah, nothing, and I'm going to hit OK. So here's what it did. It extended down the length of one more tread, right? Because if you're standing here, you're still one stair up. So if I'm stepping down, I still need more handrail. Now I'm on the ground. Now go flat 1 foot and then return back to yourself. Okay? So now we're going to do the same setting to the handrail. So I'm going to hover over the handrail, hit Tab, hit Edit Type. I'm going to extend this one to the wall. Now the book has you do 11 inches. I'm going to do 1 foot again, and let's see why we want to do 11. And I'm going to do a plus tread depth and hit OK. Looks like we want to do 11, so it lands actually on the top rail. So I'm going to click that again, edit type. Oop. I'm going to hover over the handrail, select it, edit type, 11 inches, hit OK. There we go. So now it lands nicely right into the top rail extension. So it's actually quite a nice, elegant ending to the bottom of the rail. But of course, in reality, you could design that thing however you want. Um, there is a million ways to terminate railings. Now, the book has you add some supports, and I'll let you do that as well, which is a further edit of the handrail. But that is basically it. So that's a crash course in railings. Of course, we did that other crash course in extending railings and having them match up like on an emergency stair. But I don't want to go too far into the weeds on that. So I think that's good for now. Of course, post questions, guys, and let me uh, let me answer and help you out. So please reach out. All right, I'll talk to you later.